Hare Krishna, good morning. This morning we will read from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, Divinity and Divine Service, text 10. This second chapter of the first canto gives us a summary of the process of devotional service, and it points to very essential elements of the process. And therefore we will see that in the rest of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada is referring again and again to these verses. Therefore they are very essential, and this verse 10 today is very important. That these are all valuable instructions helping us to make spiritual advancement. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Sarvatim Vyasam Tato Jamudirayat Nastabresya Bhatresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavtanaistike. Canto 1, chapter 2, text 10. So it's on the board. If you can kindly repeat, maybe you can try. Kamasyanandriya pritir Labo jivete javata Jivasya tattva jihnasa Nartoyasya karmabi Kamasyanandriya pritir Labo jivete javata Jivasya tattva jihnasa Nartoyasya karmabi. So word for word translation, you can repeat Kamasya of desires. Na not. Indriya the senses. Pritihi satisfaction. Labha gain. Jiveta self-preservation. Javata so much so. Jivasya of the living being. Tattva the absolute truth. Jignasa inquiries. Na not. Artaha and Yasha Iya, whatsoever else, Karmi Bihi, by occupational activities. Translation and purport by Abhay Charanvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Life desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Purport. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion or even in salvation, the same tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly predominant. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. The voters adore the so-called leaders only when they promise sense gratification. As soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own satisfaction, they dethrone the leaders. The leaders must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. The same is applicable in all other fields. No one is serious about the problems of life. Even those who are on the path of salvation desire to become one with the absolute truth and desire to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. But the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation and not for sense gratification, because the body is made of senses which also require a certain amount of satisfaction. There are regulated directions for satisfaction of such senses, but the senses are not meant for unrestricted enjoyment. For example, marriage or the combination of man with a woman is not necessary for progeny, but it is not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda for family planning. But foolish men do not know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is search for the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagement in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of searching the truth. In every sphere of life, therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth, and that sort of engagement will make one happy, because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained as follows. Repeat the verse once again. Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jivete chavata chivasya tattvajichnasa nachtayasya karmabi. Life desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life of self-preservation, since the human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. So nothing else should be the goal of one's work. Om Mahyanatimanasya Jananjana Shanakya Chakshara Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shichetanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svamrupakadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiyo Shiyuda Padakamanam Shigum Vaishnavam Sha Shirupam Sarjatam Sakanaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sinodina Bandhatyat Pate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamama Hari Priye Vancha Kalpta Vishake Pasin Visha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Nama Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachaya Desatani Srila Prabhupada Ki Datta. So in the beginning of this chapter, that after congratulating the sages of Namisaranya for their questions, their 6 questions, and that he's praising these questions because he's saying such questions, they will satisfy the self, the spirit soul. That and what really satisfies the spirit soul, Sutta Goswami says, is pure devotional service, which must be unmotivated, just to please the Lord, and uninterrupted. That because if you render such devotional service, then Krishna will give you all knowledge and attachment, that from within the heart he will give you these realizations. And therefore, one should not perform his duties for sense gratification. But yes, that it should not be done for sense gratification. It should be done to get liberation from material entanglement, liberation from birth, death, old age, and disease. Therefore, one should perform one's activities, not for material gain and not for sense gratification. But then one may ask the question, but we need sense gratification. We need to eat. That we need to do so many things. And it's all related to sense gratification, even the procreation of children. So, anticipating this question, Sutta Goswami says, life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should only desire a healthy life for self-preservation. So one needs sense gratification, but just what's necessary to keep body and spirit together, body and soul together. That so it's like Srila Prabhupada gives the example, like it is if we need salt, some spice with the food. If it's too much salt, I remember someone cooked and too much salt was not good. Too much is not good. And without salt, it doesn't taste good. So just what's needed. And Lord Krishna speaks about that in the sixth chapter of the Gita, balance. Not eating too much, not too less. Not sleeping too much, too less. So sleeping is also sense gratification. If it's too much, that not always working, always also some recreation in Krishna consciousness, of course. That sometimes doing what we like to do. But this is very important because to perform spiritual activities, we must be peaceful. That because it's mentioned in the Gita that this sense gratification, I'm searching the verse. Yeah. Bhogasvara prashaktanam taya pritashetanam. So those who are attached to sense gratification, their mind is always disturbed. And that's a problem. But therefore, Krishna says in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you mana prasada, satisfaction of the mind, is very important. And that's the beginning of our spiritual life. How can you think of Krishna if the mind is always disturbed? Therefore, there are austerities of the mind. And the austerity of the mind, Srila Prabhupada says, is to detach oneself from sense gratification. Not be attached. Just eat what you need. That if you eat more than you can digest, immediately so many problems that indigestion, diarrhea, so many things. So satisfaction of the mind is very important, and this austerity of the mind, being detached from sense gratification, goes together with simplicity, Lord Krishna says. Live a simple life. Live a simple life, what you really need in life, for your work, for what you do. But because people in this world are greedy, and they want more than they need. And that's the cause of economic crisis and so many issues that are going on. That sense gratification. It is said that if they just would take the money which they spent only in Europe for buying makeup, if they would not do that and spend that money to feed the people all over the world, there would be no hunger problem. So that's the cause of so many problems. But how to solve it? How to solve this problem? Srila Sutta Goswami says, yes, one should inquire about the absolute truth. So devotees, they are engaged in devotional service, and they have no time for this business of engaging in sense gratification. So that's the third thing we need. The first thing we said is you detach the mind. The mind must be austere. Don't act for sense gratification. The second thing is be simple. Just what you need, not more. But the factual solution is engaging one's mind in devotional service. Because if the mind is not engaged in devotional service, what will happen? Dayate visayapum san sanghiste bhajayate sangha sanyate kamakamakodh bhajayate. You meditate on enjoyment and sense gratification, and the mind misuses the intelligence to make plans for that and tries to execute that, and lust enters your system. And then you have expectations. These expectations are not met at the end, and you get frustrated and angry. The mind is completely disturbed. But unfortunately, and that's mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, everywhere in the world, the basis for interaction between the people is their interest in sense gratification. They will vote for a politician because they promise something for their sense gratification. And if the politician comes at power and he does not fulfill that promise, they will then dethrone him and select another. So the basis is all sense gratification. And also in the schools, that one of the degrees which is most popular is a master's in business administration. A master who is expert in exploiting the whole economic system and get the maximum profit out of it. It's all sense gratification. And that's the problem. Everyone thinks one is his body, and thinks that's my happiness in the world, and that's my goal of life, to enjoy this body. But what's the result of enjoying this body? You get old, you die. It's all for nothing. When you live for the pleasure of the senses, Krishna said, it's for nothing. So that is what's going on in the world. But the Bhagavatam says, no, we should not live for sense gratification. Because many times religion is accepted for sense gratification. People go to the church and pray to God, please give me that, this, that, so many problems, solve my problems. And so they think God is their order supplier. He will solve all their material problems, and they pray for that. But the Bhagavatam from the outset, in the second verse, that it says clearly, Dharma projita kaivatetra paramoni matsaram satam. It rejects all activities that are materially motivated. That is not Dharma. That is not real religion. It's all about sense gratification. Including God in as a partner in their sense gratification in this world, which is going to fulfill their temporary futile desires. But the Bhagavatam is about a higher truth. It's about self-realization, the pursuit of self-realization, realizing that we are a spirit soul and how to act as a spirit soul in relation to Krishna. But that can only be understood when one is pure in heart. So the beginning is, the beginning of devotional service is, we have to stop polluting our heart. And that's what is mentioned here. That because this first canto is like an introduction of the Bhagavatam. We will see, the Bhagavatam starts factually at the beginning of the second canto, where Sukadeva Goswami appears and start to speak. Because Maharaj Pariksit is asking this question, what's the duty of a man about to die? So what's our duty? We are all a man about to die. We can die in 2 hours from now, we can die in 40 years from now, or whatever, but the end will come. Yeah, man about to die. And the first thing Sukadeva Goswami said, that is a very good question. Yeah. This Prashna Varayani says it's a very good question, but because most people, they don't ask this question. Because, yes, they are completely in that system of sense gratification, identifying with the body. And Sukadeva Goswami said they are like householders, working hard during the day and then spending their money for sense gratification and sex life at night. So most people, they don't have the spiritual intelligence to understand that point. One can be very intelligent materially. I just heard a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, and he speaks about Max Muller, was one of the first Westerners, scholar who had studied the Vedas. And his conclusion was the Vedas has no purpose. It is that, but the process of understanding this spiritual literature is submissively hearing from pure devotees in the line of disciplic succession. And one must have qualifications. The listener must have qualifications, otherwise one cannot understand. And this is the first qualification. Give up this sense gratification. Just get what you need. What you need. Like in the 11th canto, there Lord Krishna speaks to Uddhav. He speaks about the duties of a brahmachari. And he says a brahmachari should never keep food for later in storage. That's interesting. Because when we were studying the 11th canto in Vrindavan at the Viyaji, at Goshal, then it was winter, but it was noontime, and we put the door open of the classroom, And just before the teacher, a brahmachari was sitting. And he was sitting on a small table on the floor with his Bhagavatam on the table. And under the table there was a tiffin. And on the tiffin, on top of that, there was a banana. And thus Vrindavan is very mystically that Mother Narayani read this verse from the Bhagavatam that the brahmachari should not keep food for later. And so this brahmachari was sitting before her, and at that moment that she read this verse, a monkey entered the room, and he went under the table of this brahmachari, and he grabbed a banana and went out. That was practice, very practical. That's Vrindavan. But that's a brahmachari, or not only a brahmachari, we should all do that. Every month you look in your possessions, and if you see, oh, that I did not use that for months, just give it to someone else who can use it. Don't be attached. So that principle is there. But then Sukadev Goswami says to Maharaj Pariksit, then after condemning this Shreya Medas, that he says, he gives an answer to his question. What was the duty of a man about to die? And he says, Tasma Bharata Sarvatma Bharvanishvarori Shotafya Kirtatafyasya Shotafya Sheshatabayam. If you want to meet your death in 7 days in a fearless state of mind, then you have to hear, glorify, and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's the basis of the Bhagavatam. From there all the other instructions come, how to do that. That is what we should do. And when you do that, you forget about sense gratification. So that's the search for the Absolute Truth. But for that search of the Absolute Truth, you must know what is Absolute Truth. And that's defined in the verse, in the next verse, that, yes. Vadanti tat tatvavitas tatvam jnanam akvayam prameti paramatmeri bharvaniti sapyate. You must know who Krishna is. Bhagavan, you must know that he is Paramatma in everyone's heart, is an expansion of him, and that Brahman is his energy. If we understand that, then we understand that we are a parcel of Krishna, and it's our goal to serve and love Krishna, and that's engagement in devotional service. But that starts with knowing the Absolute Truth, knowing Krishna, and that's not so easy. So the Bhagavatam helps us to understand. Therefore, the whole creation is explained in the Bhagavatam so that we can find Krishna in the creation. It's in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I'm the light of the sun, the light of the moon. I'm the digestion in everyone's heart, in everyone's body. That I'm fire. So I'm the taste of water. Water we drink always. So the Bhagavatam helps us to understand that Absolute Truth, and is the only bona fide scripture which helps us really to point to Bhagavan. Therefore it's the Bhagavat, that Bhagavatam about Krishna. And so it's not just doing service, it's not just chanting. This morning I heard Srila Prabhupada saying, yes, you should also read my books. Why am I reading why am I writing these books? It's for you to read them. You should read them, Srila Prabhupada says. And then he says something very heavy. That if you don't read my books, it's Guru Avagya. It's disrespecting the order of the spiritual master, offense to the spiritual master. So we should read the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita every day. Otherwise, Guru Avagya. That I heard that this morning, that and it stuck in my mind. That yeah. So that's the first lesson we must learn. Life is not for sense gratification, because sense gratification causes attachment and aversion to the body and the senses and the mind. And that keeps us in this world. That's, if you have this attachment and aversion, which is everyone in this world. We are attached to be glorified and feel good and sense gratification. We like to eat pizza and ice cream and so on. We are attached to that. And we don't want pain and someone who dishonors us and who makes our life difficult. No, we don't want that. But these are all forms of sense gratification. We need to get a deeper insight in that. So that means Krishna consciousness is, it's not so a cheap path to follow. We must be very serious in doing these things, in restricting us from sense gratification, follow the rules and regulations strictly, and then engage fully in devotional service. Because this searching for the absolute truth, that, or not searching, but inquiry, it's said. We don't have to search. Srila Prabhupada said many times, you are searching for the absolute truth, but we are giving you here. Here is the absolute truth, the Bhagavatam. Why don't you accept it? With your brain you cannot understand. With your brain you can never figure out the absolute truth, because the brain is material. The absolute truth is transcendental. Srila Prabhupada said, you have to be in Suddha Sattva, on the transcendental platform, to understand transcendental knowledge. And to come to that platform, the first step is give up this sense gratification. We are there for spiritual sense gratification, satisfying Krishna's spiritual senses. And that gives ecstatic love. That's the greatest enjoyment. And it's not from this world. Nothing to do with material sense gratification. If sense gratification, intensity for sense gratification is high, then the other side is low. Then your understanding of Krishna will be very limited. But it's a gradual process that, therefore, Srila Prabhupada, as a method to come out of that, gives us the dovetailing process, using your likes and dislikes in the service of Krishna when possible, using your capabilities in Krishna's service. You want to eat pizza? Okay, make pizza for Krishna and offer it. That, and then you can take that, just what you need. So this is, but only devotional service will make us happy. Engagement in sense gratification is a cause of misery. I som spasiabuha dukuyonia evatel adiantavantikantia natishormate buddha. If the great sages have concluded one who engages in sense gratification, one who wants to enjoy his senses, the action will in the future he will have to suffer. So you are creating suffering factually. And it's not worthwhile. It's temporary. Very temporary, this sense gratification. So it will not make one happy. But a devotee is not interested in all these forms of sense gratification, which is just for the body. And the body is a vehicle, he understands, to be used in Krishna's service. Because we see that misunderstanding of religion, that religion is for sense gratification, is deep-rooted. And it was already there 5,000 years ago. And the proof of that is the sages of Kurukshetra who speak to Krishna and to the Yadus and the residents of Vrindavan who were assembled there. And the sages say, Yasyatma buddhi kunapeti tatuke svadikrata simamaichati yatirta bule salilena karichit shane sabihyesu saiva gokala. So this verse said, one who identifies himself as the inert body composed of mucus, bile and air, who assumes his wife and family as are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as mere the water there, but who never identifies himself feels kinship with worships or even visit those who are wise in spiritual truth, such a person is no better than a cow of an ass. So people go on pilgrimage and you see that they go to Vrindavan. Why? They want to eat nicely. And they visit the temple and give some donation, yes, and then take pictures. Yeah, been here. And but that's not the purpose to go to holy places. The purpose to go to holy places is to visit those who are the pure devotees, those who are wise in the absolute truth, and inquire from them. That's our business, the sages said to the Yadus, the residents of Vrindavan, and to Krishna. Krishna asked them to speak. He was very humble. You please explain what's our duty to the sages that at Kurukshetra. So, that is the first step for self-realization, understanding this point. Religion is not for sense gratification, but human life is for serving Krishna in pure devotional service. So any question or comment, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Hare Baba.
Maharaj, in this verse, Artha was translated as end.
Artha.
But Artha means
Artha, yeah.
Artha, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah. Na Artha, end.
Artha means money, right? Maharaj, Lakshmi. But why it is translated as end?
Yeah. Artha means also what's valuable. What's valuable. Anartha is that what's not desired, what's not valuable. And the most valuable thing in the end is inquiry for the absolute truth. That's the most valuable thing. That is our artha, that's our wealth. Wealth is not always gross. Wealth that means also good character. The wealth of a Brahmin is being austere, good qualities. But here it means, the artha, the wealth or the goal for which we are striving. Everyone wants wealth. That's the wealth that we are striving for, is understanding the absolute truth. And that should be the goal of our work. Of course, if we understand the absolute truth, then we engage in the service of the absolute truth. Does that clarify? Understand?
Yes.
Because,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you
good.
very much. Good. Yes, Rasaraj Krishna Prabhu.
Hi Krishna, thank you for the class. My question is that you're talking about salt and how a little bit of salt is just what we need. Not too much salt and then not enough salt and it doesn't taste good. My question is that how can the amount of salt we add in the metaphor help the body and soul keep together just by salt changing the taste? Meaning, by a little bit of sense gratification, how does the body and soul stay connected? Is that what keeps it connected? A little bit of sense gratification?
No, but it gives the bodies made of food. So we need food to keep the body alive. But we don't need a lot of food. We need what's needed to keep body and soul together. But that's different for everyone. Like Bhima, his quota is a bit bigger than ours. He needed more because he was a Kshatriya, he had to fight that. But usually we don't need so much. It's just a question of balance. Balance is important. Oh, how much should I eat? That's mentioned in Ayurveda. You have your two hands, and what you can carry in your two hands is what your stomach can digest in one time. So you should never eat more than what you can carry in your two hands. And Ayurveda said in the morning you can take 50-60% of that, and at noontime 70 to 8%, and in the evening not more than 10-20%. And these are guidelines for a healthy life from Ayurveda. But like I said, that's for everyone different. It depends also what work you are doing, what season we are in, and so on. But you have to find out for yourself what is the balance. If you are out of balance, then you get problems at night with sleeping too much, or bad dreams, or worse things. So we have to be careful that we not concentrate on sense gratification. The point is, yes, we eat to keep a healthy body, so that we can use it nicely in Krishna's service. That to keep it healthy. Self-preservation, it is said. Does that help, Rasaraj Krishna? Good. Very good. Thank you very much. I look forward to see you next week, if Krishna willing. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have one question.
Yeah, Prema Prada. Mataji, I mean.
Maharaj, I was thinking when you're saying this, the rules and regulations, too much rules and regulations, some people, they cannot digest. So, because of their, not being so strong, and they cannot handle, there are so many rules they know, but they cannot handle those rules because of the body doesn't support, or so how to balance, like they know the rules but they cannot handle, they cannot follow the rules.
Yes.
So yeah, yes, Paras. What
So,
should they?
Bhakti Sharmas used to say, spiritual life is like a weightlifter. The weightlifter does not start with the most heavy weight, but with lightweight, and he builds up. So that's important for everyone. We cannot follow all these rules at once, but little by little we should build up. And especially here, Bhagavatam, here Bhagavad Gita daily. Read Srila Prabhupada's books, and he gives the instructions how to build that up. But if people are not doing that, then there is not much hope. A little austerity should be there by doing that. And unfortunately, some people are not ready for it. That too much bewildered by the material energy. But yes, but it's open to everyone. If one starts building up, then it may take a time, but if one is serious, one will overcome that. May take a time. Does that help, Prema Pradamati?
Yes, Paras. So they shouldn't. We shouldn't get bewildered, but we should try our best. That's how you're saying, right, Maharaj?
Yeah. Also, that we should also not be disturbed by those who are not able yet to follow it, but try to inspire them. Inspire them to hear about Krishna and so on. It's also in Bhagavad Gita. We should not disturb those who are too attached to sense gratification, but give the example. And that's our duty. That's how we can attract them. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Bol.
Recording stop.